Well, I think my editor described it perfectly. While there may be economic slowdown that a lot of sectors are facing, that's not the case with startups. Optimistic bunch of entrepreneurs, ecosystem players there from India Economic Conclave. Moving on to an interesting startup on the show, WOOP, or Women of Opinion, a platform that they're building a community for brand advocates, connecting women to brands, and also they have an interesting angle of societal impact as well, where they ensure that for every active women, really a lot more women, they ensure that the same really is given to the education of girl child. So interesting platform. We have Asit Gupta, the co-founder of WOOP, joining us on the show to take this conversation forward. Asit, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us on ET Now Startup Central. First up, talk to us about the idea behind WOOP, really an interesting convergence of brands, consumer, that is women, and society also, and clearly women are at the heart of the mission, so to say.
Essentially, the idea behind WOOP is trying to solve two kind of big problems which we have. On one hand, we have the problem of trust, whether it is in society or in media or in marketing. We see the growth of fake news, fake fans, and people are struggling to figure out what is real. So, and that's a problem brands also have. You know, on Amazon, there are also fake reviews. So how do you engage with consumers with something which they trust? Because end of the day, trust drives sales. So there is a very direct link between building trust and getting business results. So that's the problem we are solving for brands, and we saw that there was an opportunity to get friends, family, colleagues, which we call peers, to recommend the brands they like, and this is obviously an authentic recommendation, because these are people who are actually using the brand, they have bought it, they have tried it, they have relevant personal stories to talk about it. So that's one of the problems we saw emerging. And on the other hand, if we look at from a societal point of view, in a society like India, we are a very unequal society. So what WOOP is trying to do, it's trying to make a dent in both the problems. How do we build trust for brands and at the same time contribute in some way to reducing inequality in the society? And when we talk about reducing inequality, of course, that's a big challenge. So we have narrowed down on a specific cause, which is girl-child education, because that's a multiplier cause. If you educate a girl, you actually solve for multiple problems.
Well, it's interesting how you've sort of married commerce and compassion, so to say. You briefly spoke about, the idea also to educate girl child through the mission and how active women are really on the platform. Was it a conscious decision right from the start to ensure that this is going to be part of the larger mission, so to say?
By having this higher order self-actualization, you can call it fulfillment, motivation for consumers, it also ensures that actually brands are getting the right kind of people, and the advocacy we are getting and the trust we are building is more authentic and real. So it was actually coming from the experience from our business point of view, but it also came from the insights in the social sector. Now if you look at the social sector, and if we look at the normal citizen like you and me, we all want to contribute, but it's not easy to contribute. We don't have time. Yes, we have money, but then it comes, who should we give it to? How is it being used? Is it being used to solve the cause, or it's actually being used for the administration part? Now, what we did on WOOP was we took out all of those questions from the equation. You don't have to donate money. You are turning your time into doing good, and the impact of your doing good is very transparent. So those were the two breakthroughs on the social impact front on WOOP.
Well, it's of course interesting how you have a compassionate angle to the side of the business. But could you talk to us about the trends that are standing out as far as women being active on the platform is concerned? Are a large part of them really concentrated to the urban markets, considering you are looking for brand advocates, so to say?
So it's been about slightly over 2 years since we started in July 2017. And yes, right now the skew is definitely towards the top 10 cities. And clearly it is towards more SEC A and B1. Very recently we have started introducing a vernacular content on WOOP, because obviously that's a huge opportunity for everyone, not just for us, even for brands. And for consumers to express in their natural language and do actions on our platform in a language they are comfortable is clearly an opportunity. So currently, yes, there is a skew towards SEC A and B1. We are close to 200,000 women in India. But as I mentioned to you, WOOP is also there in multiple countries. Globally, we are touching close to 1 million, which is about 10 lakh women. So yeah, that's the current profile.
Well, I cannot not ask you about marketing and what really the future of marketing holds. So, from traditional marketing techniques to now social media being all pervasive, a lot of the conversation really moving to video, influencer marketing in itself has sort of come up recently. As someone who's been tracking these trends and you're part of this system for so long, what are you really placing your bets on as far as the future of marketing is concerned?
Of digital was captured very well by the US author Seth Godin, who is truly an outstanding thinker, in his book Permission Marketing, which came about in 1999, right? Now, if you contrast interruption with permission, essentially what he was saying is instead of marketing at consumers, you should be marketing with consumers, right? So that has been there as an opportunity for digital for almost 20 years now. But actually what we see is that most of the digital spend, 90% of digital spend, is still on interruption marketing. So there is a fundamental issue that most of the marketing dollars are still focused on interrupting a consumer. When we browse and when we surf, we know all the programmatic banner ads which are interrupting our content consumption. So the future of marketing, as I see, and actually I don't have to say it, everyone in India, especially who's in marketing, has heard of Kotler. Kotler's last book, Marketing 4.0, is very explicit that the future of marketing is to turn your consumer into an advocate, because people trust their friends, family, and peers, and they are making decisions based on that. So we need to move consumers down from awareness to advocacy as an outcome. So it's obviously not just my views. Experts like Seth Godin, Kotler have talked about it. So in summary, I would say that the brands need to think beyond content and interruption and truly embrace the concept of building a community.
Interesting, sort of telling us what to watch out for. Lastly, before I let you go, Asit, tell us, your tips for someone who wants to start off by being an influencer on social media. For the ones already out there, what are those hacks that they should really keep an eye on?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked the question. And influencer marketing has become a big catchword. But obviously, within influencer marketing, there are segments. So if I have to do a very simplistic segment, you have the macro influencers who are the celebrities, which we all know. Then we have the micro influencers, which has been a recent Instagram-led phenomena. And these are people who are classified as having 10,000 plus more followers. What we are doing on WOOP is what you can call them nano influencers, we like to call them advocates, or you can call them everyday influencers. So I think we need to look at influencer marketing in totality, right? And when it comes to suggestions on people who are trying to become an influencer, I think my big point is you cannot fool your audience. Authenticity and trust is always going to trump hustling. help people, not hype. That is the big difference. So people can see through if you are doing a sponsored post. In any case, you need to disclose it. But people can make out, are you genuinely into this brand, or are you just attending this event because you got invited? So the influencers need to strike a balance between their loyalty to the brands or the category and the authenticity they bring to their endorsement and their content. And it's not easy, because the brands obviously are looking to, get their messaging across. And I feel for influencer marketing to evolve to its next level, brands have a very important role. If you ask influencers, they often complain that they're engaged on a campaign basis. They do not know whether they have a long-term relationship with the brand. I think both parties need to kind of meet halfway. Brands need to engage influencers long-term, and that will allow the influencers to actually build much more authentic content which is valuable for their audience. That would be my suggestion.
And do not take the audience for granted is the message coming from Asit Gupta. Thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us. On that note, we do slip into a small commercial break on Startup Central, but do stay tuned. We have the man behind, I'm sure you've watched the video that has gone viral, the moonwalk on the streets of the bad, poor roads in Bengaluru. The man behind it is going to join us right after this break. Stay tuned.